Good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome you to the virtual public scoping meeting for the ANCSA 17D1 withdrawals environmental impact statement. My name is Amanda Biederman, and I work for EMPSI and serve as a public outreach specialist for the project. We are a national environmental consulting firm working with the BLM to facilitate this forum and manage the Zoom application. With me today on the call are my coworkers from EMPSI, Val Stanson, Shine Roshan, and David Scott. I will be assisting the BLM today with facilitation of the forum and public input session. Before beginning today's presentation, we will briefly review the meeting agenda and participation rules. I would like to remind everyone that this meeting is being recorded. And to enable the use of closed captions for this meeting, you can click the live transcript button icon on your Zoom toolbar and then select show subtitles. Next slide. Slide 2, meeting agenda. During today's meeting, we will outline the meeting approach and give a presentation about the project. The presentation will provide an overview of the planning area and describe the purpose of the environmental impact statement. Following the presentation, we will then move into the question and answer session. The final portion of the meeting will allow for public input as part of the formal scoping process. Before we get started today, I will turn it over to Acting Anchorage District Manager, Lenore Hepler.
Thank you. We're embarking on a process that could change how millions of acres of public lands are managed for decades to come. We're going to be looking at such questions as, should certain areas be open to the staking of new mining claims? Should certain lands be open for state selection to meet their entitlement under the Alaska Statehood Act? And how will these changes affect lands open to federal subsistence hunting priorities? It is essential for us to hear from and understand the concerns of the American public and people who use and value these lands so that we can make a well-reasoned recommendation to the Secretary. I want you to know that while we're in the first stages of the public involvement in this process, it is but the first stage. There's going to be multiple opportunities for you to let us know what you think about all of this process. We're going to be reaching out to the communities involved, the tribal governments, the Native corporations, the state of Alaska, and other interested parties. It is our goal that everyone understand the possibilities and the ramifications of these changes and to hear public input. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Lenore. We'll go ahead and go to the next slide, slide 3, meeting logistics. Attendee videos will be turned off for the duration of today's meeting. Questions will be received during the Q&A session using the Q&A feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. During the meeting, if you need any technical assistance related to your Zoom features, you can enter your message into the chat feature located at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and a technician will contact you to try to troubleshoot your issue. Your microphone will remain muted until the public input session at the very end of the meeting, at which time the facilitator will enable microphones as needed. Verbal input will be open to participants that indicated interest in speaking during registration. Others will be called upon in response to a raised hand. Next slide. Slide 4, meeting details. Displayed on the screen are some meeting controls located in your Zoom toolbar that you can access during the meeting. If you do not see your Zoom toolbar, you may need to toggle your mouse around or push on your phone screen for it to pop up. Again, we will provide more detailed instructions during the Q&A and input sessions on how to access these features. We do ask that you avoid using inappropriate language this evening and respect all participants and viewpoints for the duration of this meeting. Next slide. Slide 5, acronyms and definitions. We wanted to share a few commonly used acronyms and definitions of terms used during this presentation. We will try to keep the use of acronyms to a minimum, but there are a few you will hear us often say, so let's run through them. ANCSA is the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act of 1971. DOD is Department of Defense. EIS is Environmental Impact Statement. ESA is the Endangered Species Act of 1973. FLTMA is the Federal Land Policy and Management Act of 1976. NEPA is the National Environmental Policy Act of 1969. NHPA is the National Historic Preservation Act of 1966. And PLO is Public Land Order. Public land orders are actions implemented by the Secretary of the Interior to make, modify, extend, or revoke land withdrawals under the authority of the Federal Land Policy and Management Act of 1976. Withdrawals withdraw the lands in federal ownership, effectively removing an area of federal land from settlement, sale, location, or entry for the purpose of limiting activities under those laws to maintain other public values in the area, or reserving it for a particular public purpose or program. Withdrawals are also used to transfer jurisdiction over federal land from one department, bureau, or agency to another. I would now like to introduce Serena Sweet, the BLM Alaska Planning and NEPA lead, to introduce the project and the team. And we can flip to slide 6, introductions.
Good evening and thank you. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. My name is Serena Sweet, and I'm here on behalf of Rachel Jones, who is the BLM project manager for this environmental impact statement. We're currently in the process of gathering information to inform the development of an environmental impact statement. The purpose of today's meeting is to provide you information on what the project is about. We also want to provide you an opportunity to provide verbal and written input during this scoping period so that we have the information as we move forward in preparing the EIS. We have not yet started preparing the EIS. Rather, we have just begun the process under the National Environmental Policy Act by opening this scoping period. We are engaging you to hear your thoughts, input, and concerns tonight to help us identify issues and alternatives that will be addressed during the development of the EIS. We also have some additional BLM support behind the scenes to help us answer questions. On the line is Betty Shelby, our BLM Alaska Lands and Realty Section Chief. And I think that's all that we have at this moment tonight. Those individuals and myself will be here answering questions related to the project and the NEPA process. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Serena. I'll go ahead and put you back on mute and we'll move on to our next slide, slide 7, project presentation. We will now start the project presentation. This presentation will cover some background information to help everyone understand how we got here, what the focus of the EIS will be, the EIS and NEPA process and our expected timeline. We will discuss the project area, how to participate in this scoping period, and the type of input that is very helpful for the BLM and that will guide our preparation of the EIS. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started with the presentation.
Slide 8, background. Only Congress and the Secretary of the Interior have the authority to make, modify, extend, or revoke land withdrawals. When the BLM identifies a need to act on a land withdrawal, the appropriate environmental reviews are coordinated, and the BLM makes a recommendation to the Secretary on how to proceed. The BLM made recommendations to revoke or partially revoke ANCSA 17D1 withdrawals in the approved resource management plans for Bay, Bering Sea Western Interior, East Alaska, Kobuk Seward Peninsula, and Ring of Fire planning areas. In January 2021, the Secretary acted on those recommendations by signing 5 public land orders, which would have revoked withdrawals established under INCSA Section 17D1 in these 5 planning areas. In February 2021, the Department reviewed those public land order decisions and identified certain procedural and legal defects in the decision-making process, and subsequently directed the BLM to address the legal defects in the decision through preparation of an environmental impact statement, or EIS. Slide 9, Focus of EIS. This EIS will focus on addressing the legal deficiencies the Department identified during their review, which include insufficient analysis under NEPA, failure to follow Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act, NHPA, possible failure to adequately evaluate impacts under Section 7 of the Endangered Species Act, ESA, failure to secure consent from the Department of Defense, DoD, with regard to lands under DoD administration, as well as failure to adequately analyze potential impacts on subsistence hunting and fishing, and reliance on potentially outdated data in EISs prepared in 2006 and 2007. Slide 10, EIS NEPA process and timeline. The EIS process started on August 18, 2022, when the Notice of Intent was published in the Federal Register, opening a 60-day scoping period. This comment period closes on October 17, 2022. After the scoping period concludes, the BLM will compile the input we received from external stakeholders in the form of a scoping report that will be published on the project website. The BLM will use that information to focus on issues and alternatives that will be analyzed in our EIS. Analysis of issues and alternatives and preparation of the analysis into the EIS will take some time, but we expect to have a draft EIS for public review in the summer 2023, with a minimum of 60 days for comment. Part of the preparation of the draft EIS will be reviewing the EISs prepared in 2006 and 2007 and determining what analysis needs to be updated or identifying analysis that may be missing. After the comment period on the draft EIS is complete, the BLM will address public comments and prepare and publish the final EIS and recommendation to the Secretary. Slide 11, Proposed Action Overview. The proposed action is to revoke INCSA 17D1 withdrawals on lands described in January 2021 Public Land Orders 7899, 7900, 7901, 7902, and 7903, which totals approximately 28 million acres across the 5 planning areas. Slide 12, Project Area Map. The BLM prepared a web map for this project, which is what I am going to access for this presentation. This web map is accessed through our project website. On the project website, listed on the menu to the left-hand side of the web page, there is a Maps tab. Click on that tab and you will see a section for both static maps and PDF. Those are listed at the bottom of the page, and a link to the web map at the top. The project area includes lands in Bay, Bering Sea Western Interior, East Alaska, Kobuk-Seward Peninsula, and Ring of Fire planning areas, which cover the western and southern portions of Alaska. The areas under evaluation are limited to the withdrawal areas that were described in the January 2021 public land orders. This map is showing the 5 planning areas with a black outline, and depicts the D1 withdrawal evaluation areas with a black hatching pattern. The D1 withdrawals layer is listed as one of the layers on the legend to the right and is named D1 withdrawals with an evaluation area. This evaluation area makes up approximately 28 million acres. Within this evaluation area, there are several different types of lands. For example, there are special recreation management areas, areas of critical environmental concern, native selected land, state selected land, and state top filed land. The land status types and land use designations mentioned can be viewed by finding their layer on the legend to the right and clicking the box next to the layer name. This map is a dynamic map that will allow the user to pan around and zoom in and out of areas of interest. Also available on the project website is a series of print-ready maps in PDF format. Slide 13, Alternatives. The BLM is required to include alternatives in any proposal which involves unresolved conflicts concerning alternative uses of available resources. The proposed revocations have the potential to allow obtaining mining claims, location, or applications for title, entry, under public land laws, including the mining laws, and may result in changes to the land use. Changes to the existing land use could affect local residents, recreation access, wildlife, vegetation, cultural resources, subsistence use, air resources, and water resources. The BLM will consider a range of alternatives in this EIS. Alternatives could include full or partial revocation of the ANCSA 17D1 withdrawals, meaning that we could evaluate an alternative that revokes some areas of the withdrawals but leaves other areas with the withdrawal in place, or alternatives could include retaining withdrawal protections through a different type of withdrawal, such as those under the Federal Land Policy and Management Act or FLPMA withdrawals. Alternatives will be based on what the BLM hears from interested stakeholders during this scoping period. Slide 14, How to comment. There are many ways to provide scoping comments during the scoping period. The BLM is hosting 3 virtual public meetings, which are listed on BLM's e-planning website and advertised on social media. All public comments will be recorded for the record. You can also fill out a comment form online, submit comments by regular mail, or deliver them in person to any BLM office. The address is Bureau of Land Management, attention ANCSA 17D1 Withdrawals EIS, 222 West 7th Avenue, Suite 13, Anchorage, Alaska, 99513. All comments must be received by October 17, 2022 to be included in the scoping report. Comments received after that date will be considered but will not be incorporated into the scoping report. Slide 15. Comments most helpful to BLM. Public and stakeholder input most helpful to BLM includes comments that relate to potential impacts associated with full or partial revocation of the ANCSA 17D1 withdrawals in the areas under evaluation. Examples may include identifying important subsistence use areas or recreation use areas that could be affected by potential changes in the existing land use. BLM has guidance for making substantive comments, which you can access online at https:// PLANDEVELOPMENT.GOV/ALMS-DEVELOPMENT/ALASKA. Slide 16. Thank you. This concludes the scoping presentation. The BLM has prepared some FAQs for this project that are available on the project website. If you have questions about information shared in this presentation, you can refer to the FAQ document or email Rachel Jones at rajones@blm.gov.
All right, hello everyone again. This is Amanda Biederman with EMPSI, and I will be assisting with the question and answer session this evening. I wanted to provide a quick reminder to everyone that a recording of this meeting will be made available on the project website. We would like to answer any NEPA and EIS related questions that you may have asked during registration or that you might have on the material that we presented this evening. We will take about 20 minutes to answer questions that you have on the presentation. Again, this is your opportunity this evening to ask questions to BLM staff who are present on the meeting today. If you have any public input that you would like to provide, please save that for the public input portion of the meeting that will begin shortly after this question and answer session. So let's review the forum guidelines and then we will begin the question and answer session. So for step 1, please click on the Q&A feature located at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Again, you may have to toggle your mouse to get the toolbar to pop up, and you can then select that Q&A feature. Step 2, type your question into the Q&A feature. Please note that you can submit your questions anonymously if you would like. If your question is within the scope of the project and the BLM is able to respond to it today, a specialist from the BLM will then either answer your question live or type an answer back to the entire audience. And for any typed responses that we provide today, I'll make sure that I read those aloud as well for any phone callers that we might have on the line today. If you are on the phone, you can press *9 on your phone keypad to indicate that you have a question, and your microphone will be opened for your question. Once your question has been asked, the host will close your microphone and the specialist will provide an answer. In the interest of time, we are only able to allow verbal questions from the participants on the phone and ask that others please enter their questions into the Q&A feature. We will reserve some time at the end of our Q&A session for any phone callers. We will do our very best to answer all of the in-scope questions received today. However, it is possible that we will not get to everyone's questions this evening. So if the BLM is not able to get to your question today, or if you seek additional information, please refer to the project website that we have put into the chat feature a few times now, or you can contact, again, the BLM project manager, Rachel Jones, at rajones@blm.gov. Please note that if your question is outside the scope of this project or inappropriate, it will be dismissed and will not be responded to by the BLM today. So at this time, I'll give it a few minutes to allow any of our attendees on the meeting today to access, again, that Q&A feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We ask that you don't send any questions via the chat feature. I know it's a little confusing, but the Q&A feature is intended for the Q&A session that we're in. The chat feature, again, as we've been doing, will share any important links or information out to everyone on the meeting. That's also an area where if you're having a technical issue with a Zoom feature, such as your speakers or maybe microphone, when we get to the verbal public input portion, you can send us a quick message and we'll try and troubleshoot that issue to the best of our ability this evening. All right, again, we'll just give it a few minutes for our attendees to submit those questions via the Q&A feature. We did receive some questions that were submitted by attendees when they registered for this evening's meeting. So at this time, again, while we wait for attendees to access that Q&A feature, I'll go ahead and read through those registration questions. So our first question that we received from an attendee upon their registration for tonight's meeting was, can you please produce maps showing D1s around communities near BLM managed land? And we will provide a typed response to this question in both the Q&A feature, or it'll have to just be the chat feature since this didn't actually come in via the Q&A feature. And our response, our typed response to that question was, the BLM has prepared both a web map and a series of static maps that can be accessed on the project website. And we provided that web link in the chat feature. So if you go to your chat feature, you can see the question and then the typed response that we provided that I also just read aloud as well. All right, so we'll go ahead and move on to our next question. Again, this is a question that was received upon an attendee's registration for this evening's meeting. So the question was if the BLM could identify, and I apologize if I mispronounce this, but Salamatov lands on the project. And so our typed response to that pre-registration question that we received, that again, we'll put into the chat feature here shortly, was that Salamatov Native Association Incorporated for the native village of Salamatov has received their EIS entitlement by patent and interim conveyance. According to BLM records, the village entitlement has been fulfilled with the exception of final confirmatory patents for the interim conveyed lands, waiting for survey and adjudication. Salamatov lands are not included in the project lands. So again, you can go to the chat feature at the bottom of your screen to read that full typed response that we provided to that question that was submitted upon registration for tonight's meeting. All right, and I'm checking our Q&A feature. I don't see any questions that we've received from attendees currently on the meeting. So I'll go to our last question that was submitted upon registration from an attendee who registered for tonight's meeting. So that question is, why have Alaska Native Vietnam vets not been provided suitable and adequate lands for their allotments? And our typed response to this question, that again, will drop into the chat feature here shortly, is the BLM has worked within the bounds of the Dingle Act to provide as much land as possible. Recently, the BLM opened an area the size of Pennsylvania of BLM managed lands. However, we have heard many eligible individuals would like land within national forests or national wildlife refuges, which the Dingle Act does not authorize the BLM to make available. The only way this type of land would become available is if Congress amended the law. So again, you can look in our chat feature for that question that was submitted upon registration, along with the typed response that the BLM developed that I just read aloud. So those are our three pre-submitted registration questions that we received from attendees for tonight's meeting. So again, feel free if you have any new questions or perhaps any follow-up questions to any of the questions that we just read aloud, you can again access that Q&A feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen, type and send your question over to the BLM. Feel free to submit that question anonymously if you would like as well. And while we wait for our attendees to submit their questions via, again, that Q&A feature, I can go back through some of the registration questions that were submitted for previous meetings. We have held 2 previous virtual public meetings for this project. So again, while we wait for questions to come in and for the BLM to develop responses to those questions, I'll go ahead and read through some of those questions at this time. All right, so a question that we received previously on one of our virtual public meetings was, why are you not relying on the previous evaluations of these public land orders completed under the respective management plan reviews? We provided a typed response to this question, and that response was, after review of the January 2021 decisions to revoke the D1 withdrawals in these areas, certain procedural and legal defects were identified in the decision-making process, such as insufficient analysis under NEPA and failure to comply with the National Historic Preservation Act, or NHPA. Due to the identified deficiencies, the Department of the Interior, relying on inherent authority to revisit decisions based on identified legal errors, delayed the openings of lands and provided an opportunity for updated environmental analysis and time to follow the correct procedural requirements. So again, that was a question that was submitted upon registration for one of our previous meetings that we held. I did just read that aloud, but we also dropped that into the chat feature as well. And again, you can go to the bottom of your screen and select that Q&A feature to type and send your question over to the BLM. And we will do our best to develop a response to it this evening and make sure that we either type a response or have a BLM staffer come on and provide a live response as well. And we have about 10 to 15 minutes remaining. So again, please feel free to send those questions over. For now, I'll read another registration question that was submitted for a previous meeting that we held. So it was not so much a question as a request for in-person hearings with large maps provided. And our response to that question or request was that at this time, no in-person public meetings are scheduled during the scoping phase of the EIS process. However, we are developing our post-scoping public outreach plan and will be determining how and where we will be reaching out to interested stakeholders. And again, we are just working our way through any questions that are received for this evening's meeting as well that are within the scope of this project. And again, we will provide further information on how you can submit your written comments, or if you seek additional information, again, you can go to the project website, or you can reach out to the BLM project manager, Rachel Jones at rajones@blm.gov. All right, for now, I will continue to read through some of our questions that were submitted on previous virtual public meetings that we held. There was a question on one of our previous meetings whether this project is related to the Ambler Access Project, and we provided a typed response to that question that we received, and our response was that no, the Ambler Road project is separate and will be analyzed via a separate supplemental EIS. The notice of intent for the Ambler SEIS, or Supplemental Environmental Impact Statement, published on September 20th, and additional information is available at the BLM website at www.blm.gov/Alaska. And again, we are in the question and answer portion of our meeting this evening. If you have any verbal public input that you would like to provide, please feel free to save that for the verbal public input portion of the meeting that will be coming up here shortly. And again, we are just working our way through questions received via that Q&A feature to determine if they are within the scope of today's project and if we're able to respond to them today. So I appreciate your patience this evening. Again, we have about 10 minutes remaining in our question and answer session. So we'll do our absolute best to get all of our questions that we've received responded to today. For now, I can go ahead and scroll back up and read through some of our additional questions that we received on some of our previous meetings. So one question that we received on our meeting on September 26th that we received upon registration was how the BLM is going to address Section 106 consultation. We provided a typed response to this question, and it's kind of a lengthy response, but again, I'll read through it here and we'll also drop it into the chat feature. So our response was that the BLM will use the NEPA process to help fulfill the public involvement process under Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act. Information about historic and cultural resources within the area potentially affected by the proposed action will assist the BLM in identifying and evaluating impacts to such resources. Federal, state, and local agencies, along with tribes and other stakeholders that may be interested in or affected by the proposed opening of lands withdrawn by Section 17D1 of ANCSA, are invited to participate in the scoping process and, if eligible, may request or be asked by the BLM to participate in the development of the EIS as cooperating agencies. Potentially affected tribes, ANCSA corporations, Alaska boroughs, and certain Alaskan cities are invited to consult under Section 106 of the NHPA, and the BLM will work with consulting parties to schedule consultation meetings. And again, we'll just wait for any additional questions to come in via that Q&A feature that the BLM is able to respond to this evening. After we have gone through all of our questions received that we can respond to, again, we will move into the verbal public input portion of tonight's meeting. All right. So we have received a question from attendees on our meeting this evening via that Q&A feature. So I'll go ahead again, read through the entire question and then read through our typed response that we'll provide here shortly in both the Q&A feature as well as the chat feature. So the question was, can you further explain the process Alaska Native veterans would follow if the lands they selected are already selected by a village corporation or the state of Alaska? Do they reselect from remaining lands until such land is selected that can be conveyed? If an ANC relinquishes its selection, what is the recourse to select other lands or receive other compensation? And again, we provided a typed response in the Q&A and chat features, but I'll also read our response aloud for any phone callers that we have. So the BLM's response was, when an applicant applies for selected lands, the BLM will request that the state or native corporation relinquish that selection. The BLM will only make this request if the native corporation has enough remaining selections to fulfill its entitlement under INCSA. So again, you can go look at that typed response that we provided more under the Q&A feature, or if you have a version of Zoom where you might not be able to view that typed response in the Q&A feature, we did also provide it in the chat feature as well. And again, while we wait for more questions to come in via that Q&A feature, and while we wait for BLM to develop their responses to those questions, I will go ahead and read through another question that we received on a previous meeting that we provided a typed response to. All right. So this is a slightly similar question to what I just asked, but the question was, how will you consult with tribes in these 5 planning areas whose ancestral land is covered by these public land orders? And our typed response to that question, again, this was from a previous meeting, was tribes and Alaska Native corporations are invited to consult with the BLM on this EIS. Letters to both tribes and Alaska Native corporations were sent at the end of August, inviting consultation on this EIS. Please reach out to the project manager, again, that's Rachel Jones, to coordinate consultation. During the planning process, the BLM will continue to consult with potentially affected federally recognized tribes on a government-to-government basis and with affected Alaska Native corporations through INCSA consultation. All right, so we received a question via the Q&A feature that we're going to respond to live. So that question was, what specific purposes is the BLM earmarking these lands for? And I will go to Lenore Hepler with the BLM to provide a live response to that question.
Thank you. In this process, we're not really earmarking lands for particular management prescriptions. Rather, we're lifting these withdrawals that have certain prohibitions on them. And so to see how these lands would be managed, you could look at the resource management plan and it would outline how they'd be managed with the exception of these prohibitions that would be lifted.
Excellent. Thank you, Lenore, for that response. All right, so we'll give it a few more minutes here to see if we have any additional questions coming in from attendees who are on today's meeting before we move into that verbal public input portion of the meeting. And again, we'll give it just a minute or two more here to see if we have any additional questions before we move into the verbal public input portion. And while I just give it one more minute, we do have one phone caller. And so we recognize that you don't have the ability to access the Q&A feature. So if you have a verbal question that you would like to ask, again, you can press *9 on your phone keypad. If you have any verbal input that you'd like to provide, please save that for the verbal public input portion that we'll be transitioning to here shortly. All right, we have, I believe, one last question that we're going to address before we move into the verbal public input portion of tonight's meeting. So we just ask for your patience while we process that question here quickly. Again, we'll move into our verbal public input portion here shortly, where we will explain how exactly you can provide your verbal public input for tonight's meeting. We'll also provide information on how you can submit your input if you would rather provide it in writing. All right, we did have one last question. We're still working on developing that response. We'll get it developed as soon as we can and either respond in the Q&A feature or follow up with that attendee privately regarding where can we go as an Alaska Native Village Corporation to determine if we have any remaining lands to fulfill our entitlement. So again, we're going to work on developing that response, but in the interest of respecting everyone's time this evening, we're going to go ahead and move on to the verbal public input portion of tonight's meeting. So if we could go to the next slide. Excellent. All right, slide 18, public comment session, ground rules. We are now going to begin the verbal public input portion of today's meeting. We will be accepting verbal public input only for this portion of the meeting. Again, if the BLM was not able to get to your question during the question and answer session, or if you seek additional information, please refer to the project website or contact Rachel Jones at rajones@blm.gov. And again, we did just provide that information into the chat feature as well. I will remind everyone that your microphone will remain closed until you have been called on to provide your input. We will display the list of all the ways to provide input once more following the verbal input session, and the virtual project website address will be displayed during the input session. Because the BLM wants to hear from all members of the public, we will be using the following guidelines. First, please be mindful of the length of your comment so that everyone who wants to speak has an opportunity to do so today. Second, comments should be focused on this specific project. Third, please be respectful of others and their viewpoints. And finally, please refrain from using profanity. While passion is welcome in your comment, policy requires that we mute anyone who uses inappropriate language because we are recording this meeting and others may be live streaming. So please avoid inappropriate language. If that does happen, we'll provide a reminder before unmuting the person to try again, using words acceptable to all ages. Oh, and I see that we just, I'll just go back here quickly to the Q&A session. We did just provide a response to our last question that we received, and we'll put that into the Q&A and chat features. So again, that question was, where can we go as an Alaska Native Village Corporation to determine if we have remaining lands to fulfill our entitlement? And our typed response was, the branch of adjudication will be able to answer that question for Native villages. And Aline Ford is the acting branch chief, and their number is 907-271-5715. So again, we put our typed response into the Q&A feature. If that's not showing up for you there, we did also put it into the chat feature as well. So you can write that contact information down. All right, I'll transition back into our verbal input session now. So we can go ahead and move on to slide 19. Oh, there we go, perfect. All right, slide 19, how to provide verbal input. I will now read the instructions for those participants who indicated they wanted to offer input when they pre-registered for this meeting. Input will be accepted in the order that people registered. When it is your turn to provide your comment, we will read your name aloud from the list and display your name on the screen. We will also display the name of the commenter who is next in line. When you hear your name called out, please use the raise hand feature so that we know you are available and ready to offer your input. You can access the raise hand feature by clicking on either the reactions icon in your Zoom toolbar or just the raise hand feature in your Zoom toolbar, depending on the version of Zoom that you have. These icons are both located at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you wave your mouse back and forth across the bottom of your Zoom screen, these icons should appear. But you may need to exit out of your full screen Zoom view to see these icons. Or if you are calling in through the phone, again, please press *9 on your phone keypad to access the raise hand feature. You can then press *6 on your phone keypad to unmute. Once you have raised your hand, you will then be unmuted so that you can provide your verbal public input. If your audio is not working, you may need to click your unmute button on your computer screen or respond to any pop-up messages about unmuting your microphone. Once you have confirmed audio, please spell out your first and last name for the record before providing your verbal public input. We will then let you know that you can begin your comment and will start your on-screen timer. If you are representing an organization or group, please say the name of the organization or group you are representing as part of your comment. Each participant will have 3 minutes to provide their verbal public input this evening. Again, we ask that you be mindful and respectful of the length of your input in order to allow others the opportunity to offer input. After you have provided your input, we will put you on mute and move on to our next participant. If you do not feel that you were able to complete your verbal public input today, the BLM strongly encourages you to submit the remainder of your input in writing. Should there be more time after the initial round of input, Those who did not finish may be invited back to finish providing their input. Some registrants may have already had their questions answered and dropped off today's meeting. We will go through our entire list of registered commenters, but if they are not on the meeting, we will move forward quickly to make sure everyone who is still on the meeting has the opportunity to provide input. Once we have worked our way through our list of pre-registered commenters who registered before the start time of today's meeting, we will move on to those who registered after the start time of today's meeting who selected they wanted to offer a comment. If we still have time remaining after we have worked our way through those participants, we will open the verbal public input portion of today's meeting to anyone who would like to offer a comment today who has not already done so. Next slide. All right, slide 20, the public scoping session. So we have our first participant who pre-registered to provide input this evening. That is Suzanne Little. So Suzanne, if you are on our meeting today and prepared to offer your input, you can go ahead and access the raise hand feature. And for all of our attendees, if you no longer wish to provide your input, you can send us a message via the chat feature, letting us know that. All right, I just got a message from Suzanne stating that she does not wish to provide input today. In that case, we'll go ahead and move on to our next pre-registered commenter, Loretta Brown. So Loretta, if you're prepared to provide your input, if you could access the raise hand feature. All right, great. I see Loretta has raised their hand. So Loretta, I'll go ahead and ask you to unmute. And if you could spell your first and last name aloud for the record. Hi, Loretta, can you hear us? Let's see, I see your microphone open, Loretta. You might need to select a different speaker or microphone. Oh, I maybe just heard you. Can you hear us?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Great.
Excellent, thank you. My name is Loretta Brown, LORETTA BROWN, and I am speaking on behalf of Salmon State, which is the organization that I work for. And Salmon State is an Alaska organization, and we work to further salmon habitat and be sure that the state of Alaska remains a salmon state. And today I'm commenting to encourage the BLM to retain the D1 withdrawals throughout the 28 million acres in which the EIS will cover. And these lands are vital to fish and wildlife habitat, and especially anadromous waters throughout all of these lands. The lands and the fish and wildlife and plants within these lands are also vitally important to local communities and Alaska Natives for subsistence resources. And we would like to encourage BLM to take a really close look at the potential impacts of opening these lands for extractive development on those subsistence resources and on the fish and wildlife habitat. Salmon State will be submitting additional comments via the online portal in written form, and we would like to thank BLM for taking the opportunity here to take a close look at the impacts of revoking D1 withdrawals across BLM lands, and we look forward to continuing to engage in the process. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Loretta, for that comment. I'll go ahead and lower your hand, and we'll move on to our next pre-registered commenter, who is Jen Leahy, and I see that they have raised their hand. So Jen, I'll go ahead and ask you to unmute. Hi, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. All right, if you could spell your first and last name aloud for the record, and then we'll start your timer.
Thank you. My name is Jen Leahy, first name Jen, last name Leahy. And this evening I'm commenting in my professional capacity as the Alaska Field Representative for the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership. So thank you so much for the opportunity to comment. My organization, the TRCP, works to ensure that all Americans have quality places to hunt and to fish. We represent a nonpartisan coalition of 62 organizational partners and more than 130,000 individual supporters, including more than 1,100 Alaskans that work together to conserve important hunting and fishing habitat. The TRCP strongly supports maintaining existing conservation safeguards on the 28 million acres of public land in Alaska that are currently under review. Alaska's D1 lands offer outstanding recreational hunting and angling opportunities and provide critical subsistence resources for rural communities. These 28 million acres of public land contain productive habitat for fish and game like caribou, moose, Dall sheep, migratory birds, and salmon, and much more. Opening large tracts of habitat to large-scale resource extraction would have serious consequences to Alaska's public fish and wildlife resources. Through this EIS, the BLM has a really unique opportunity to bolster our fish and wildlife populations and the many different user groups who depend on them by using conservation tools that already exist. As the BLM moves forward with this EIS, the agency should conduct robust analyses of the potential impacts of opening these lands to mineral entry on fish and wildlife habitat, recreational and subsistence hunting and fishing, backcountry recreation, tourism, and climate resilience. These impacts weren't adequately addressed in previous planning processes, and we applaud the BLM for addressing them now. Until a more appropriate land management prescription is available to adequately safeguard Alaska's important fish and wildlife habitat on these 28 million acres of public land, we urge the BLM to keep the existing D1 safeguards in place. Thank you so much for your time and for the opportunity to comment this evening.
Great, thank you, Jen. I'll go ahead and put you back on mute and lower your hand, and we'll move on to our next pre-registered commenter, who is Thomas Thompson. And I see that Thomas has raised their hand, so I'll go ahead and ask you to unmute. Make sure you can hear us. Can you hear us, Thomas?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Great. If you could spell your first and last name aloud for the record, and then we'll start your timer.
Thomas, Thompson.
All right, you can go ahead and get started.
Yeah, so it's my understanding that this legislation the purpose is to make lands available for Vietnam veterans or Alaska Native for allotments. I guess in the Q&A there was a question about what the purposes of these lands being revoked for is, and so I guess I'm kind of curious why that was the only question that was answered live, while the other questions were answered through text. And then the other thing that I would like to point out is that in Alaska there are 2,000 Vietnam veterans who are eligible who have not applied for a land allotment, which means that they're based on their ages of these veterans, there's potentially over 10,000 people who are directly affected by the lands that are available, which is a major source for lands not being applied for. And so I guess I would be very eager to hear how such a large proportion of the population of this state, their need through this legislation. How can you spend this energy through these meetings moving forward, sort of disregarding those people's interests? Okay, thanks. That's all I have.
Great, thank you, Thomas, for that comment. I'll go ahead and put you back on mute. And we'll move on to our next commenter. And just a quick reminder for everyone that this entire meeting is being recorded along with all of your verbal input. We'll generate a full transcript of your input after this meeting, and that will be incorporated into the project record and scoping effort. But again, if you have additional information or input that you want to provide, again, we have the project website listed on the screen for further information and areas on where you can submit your written comments. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to our next pre-registered commenter, who is Lisa Wax. And Lisa, I see your hand raised, so I'll go ahead and ask you to unmute. All right, Lisa, can you hear us? Let's see, Lisa, you might need to select a different microphone. If you go down to the bottom left-hand corner of your Zoom screen, and you might need to select a different microphone on your device. Let me try to, there, let's see, did that work? Again, you might need to go down to that mute, unmute button. And if you click that up arrow, and it will show select a microphone. And you might just need to select a different microphone. Sometimes they connect to different microphones or speakers you might have. All right, I think I might have heard you there. Can you hear us, Lisa? Oh, I can just almost hear you. We'll have one of our technicians, I can send those instructions again via chat, and we'll send out again those phone numbers. Let me try one more time here to see if we can get you unmuted. I can hear you very faintly, Lisa. Can you lean a little bit closer to your computer? Let's see if we can maybe turn up your volume on your computer. I can just hear you. All right, Lisa, you're still very faint on my end, but what we can do here is, if you wouldn't mind, if you can call back in using one of our phone numbers. Again, we're going to send that out via the chat feature. So if you can call back in using a phone number, and we will make sure that you can offer your comment this evening. For now, we can move to Sandrine Thompson while we have Lisa call in using one of those phone numbers. Apologies about that, Lisa. You're just coming in really faint on my end. So if you want to call in again using one of those phone numbers that we just sent out over the chat feature, and you can access that raise hand feature again by pressing *9 on your phone keypad. And hopefully we can get you ready for your comment this evening. For now, we'll move on to Sandrine Thompson. So Sandrine, if you're ready to offer your comment, if you could also access the raise hand feature. All right, I do see Sandrine in our list. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you to unmute here. Let's see, can you hear us, Sandrine? I've asked you to unmute. And again, if you don't want to provide a comment this evening, you can let us know in that chat feature as well. I'll try one more time here to get you unmuted, Sandrine. You might need to unmute yourself. You can, again, navigate down to the bottom left-hand corner of your Zoom screen and click on that microphone icon to unmute yourself. All right, I don't see Sandrine unmuted. Again, if you're having any similar microphone issues, you can call in using one of our phone call-in numbers. For now, I'll just go ahead and lower your hand, and we'll try and move back to Lisa. I did just see a phone caller join, last 4 digits 3500. So we'll see if that's Lisa. I'll go ahead and ask them to unmute, and you can press *6 on your end to unmute your phone keypad. There we go. You're unmuted. Is this Lisa?
It sure is.
Okay, excellent. Glad we could get you on, Lisa. All right, if you could spell your first and last name aloud for the record, we'll start your timer, and I'll give you about a 30-second warning if you can't see the timer anymore.
Okay, Lisa, Wax, WAX.
All right, we'll go ahead and start your timer.
28 million acres. That is enormous. During the September 26th meeting, question and answer, I inquired as to why all the folks on the East Alaska Resource Management Plan notification list were not notified. BLM answered that they were notified on September 7th. The next day, the Glen Allen field manager, Marnie Graham Bowman, verified that indeed the East Alaska Resource Management Plan folks were not notified. So I'd like to make record of that so that can be corrected in the notes from last session. Similarly, it's similar to the recent Thompson Pass hairpin comment period, where we were all left in the dark while enormous decisions about our neighborhood were being pushed through. Meanwhile, there's been a week and a half before this meeting and still none of us have been notified. So I'm requesting both notice as promised to be presented and to the interested East Alaska Research Management Plan parties. And I'm also requesting an extension of the 10/17 deadline to allow the public process an opportunity to actually be a public process. Because like I said, 28 million acres, that is enormous. And I did also present the field manager in Glen Allen with an extension request a week and a half ago and have not heard a response yet. So, all right, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Lisa, for that comment. Glad we were able to get you unmuted there. All right, I'll go ahead and lower both your hands here. All right, again, I think our last pre-registered commenter is Sandrine Thomas. So Sandrine, if you had to call in using one of the phone numbers, again, you can access the raise hand feature by pressing *9 on your phone keypad. Or if you're ready to offer your comment this evening, you can access the raise hand feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. All right, I don't see any raised hands at this time. So that is the end of our pre-registered list of commenters. So at this time, since we do have time remaining on our meeting this evening, we'll go ahead and open up the public input portion of the meeting to anyone who would like to provide a comment who has not already done so. Regardless of whether you selected yes or no when you pre-registered, if you now feel like providing verbal public input for tonight's meeting, feel free to again access that raise hand feature either at the bottom of your Zoom screen, or if you're a phone caller, again, you can press *9 on your phone keypad. So we'll give it just a few minutes here to see if any of our attendees decide that they want to offer input this evening. And again, we are in our verbal public input portion of tonight's meeting. So if you'd like to provide any verbal public input, you can let us know by accessing the raise hand feature either at the bottom of your Zoom screen or by pressing *9 on your phone keypad. If those features aren't working for you, you can send us a chat message and let us know that you would like to provide verbal public input this evening. We'll give it about 5 more minutes here to see if any of our attendees decide that they want to offer any verbal public input this evening. If not, after that 5 minutes, then we'll go ahead and move into our closing remarks slide. So you're welcome to leave at this time if you would like. Again, this entire meeting is being recorded for the record. Or you are welcome to stick around for another 5 minutes to see if we get any additional attendees or any of our current attendees decide that they want to offer verbal public input this evening. I'll come back on a few more times and make announcements again on how you can access that raise hand feature or use the chat feature to let us know that you want to provide input. Again, we have just a few minutes remaining, so if you'd like to offer any verbal public input, please let us know by accessing the raise hand feature, sending us a chat message, or by pressing *9 on your phone keypad. We'll give it just a few minutes more and then move into our closing remarks slide, where Serena Sweet with the BLM will provide some final closing remarks for this evening's meeting. All right, I don't see any raised hands from our attendees on the meeting, so we'll go ahead and move into our final slide, our closing remarks slide. And I'll turn it over to Serena Sweet with the BLM to provide some final closing remarks.
All right, thank you, everyone. So this concludes our virtual public meeting tonight. Thank you for your participation. For more information, please visit the project website or email the BLM project manager, Rachel Jones, at rajones@blm.gov. That is RAJONES@BLM.gov. Please remember that you may also submit written comments until October 17th of 2022. Thank you again and have a good night.
I'll leave this slide up here for a minute or two more, and then I'll officially close out of the meeting. I hope everyone has a great rest of their evening.